We live yet? Hey guys, we live? Not 100% sure if we are live.
I can see us on YouTube. We will live.
Okay, we're live. All right, great. All right. Yeah, how are you doing, Priyashu?
I'm doing well, How is Dubai treating you?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's various shades of hot between India, Dubai, Singapore. And I'm hearing that folks coming back from consensus, they had 40-degree temperatures in Austin as well. Right? So it's 40 degrees Celsius. I guess probably whatever that is, 90 plus in Fahrenheit. Global warming, crypto winter. It's a nice contrast there.
Emphasis on the winter.
Emphasis on the winter, right. Yeah. Awesome.
I think we should start by giving a brief background about router and what it is, how it works.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. I mean, let me set the ball rolling, and then you can sort of take it to the next level. Yeah. So router, as first off, thank you guys. Thank you for streaming in live or listening to this later, wherever you are. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you, Huobi, for this opportunity. We're super excited to be here today, talking about router, talking about cross-chain, talking about the overall crypto space, and talking about also how everything's going to be okay, and it's all part and parcel of the whole cycle, right? So, first off, as many of you might know, router protocol is a cross-chain interoperability protocol, cross-chain messaging infrastructure. Router enables seamless transfer of messages across blockchains, and that lends itself to a number of very interesting use cases. Router went live on the alpha mainnet earlier this year. Since then, initially we launched on Ethereum and Polygon, and then since then we've expanded to pretty much all the major EVM chains. We are going to expand into a number of other chains, non-EVM chains as well, at least the major non-EVM chains as well, through the rest of the year. We have launched our Crosstalk SDK, the toolkit that lets any Dapp that needs cross-chain capabilities just plug in directly into the Crosstalk SDK and have that capability. There is a huge ecosystem focus. A number of developers are using router to build interesting dApps that are natively cross-chain. So in a sense, router is a cross-chain primitive. Maybe I think I should just zoom out and talk about why cross-chain is important for those of you that are just tuning into this whole cross-chain narrative. Initially there was one major blockchain, Ethereum, right? Other than Bitcoin, in terms of composable blockchain, there's one major blockchain, and a lot of the traffic and a lot of the activity and a lot of the excitement that we saw through 2017-18 was limited to the Ethereum blockchain. A bit like how you have a new country coming up, and then one city tends to be the hub of all activities initially. Over a period of time, Ethereum became too popular and just became too congested, right? The traffic on Ethereum was too high. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of money and effort to just communicate, to get through, right? If you want to go to a trading venue, it's like going to downtown Manhattan in peak time, right? On a Saturday evening. Everybody wants to get to the coolest club, the coolest restaurant or whatever. And unless you have interesting layer twos like the subway and the metro, it's going to be a lot of difficulty getting to where you want to go, right? And therefore, you have all these other layer one competitors as well as layer two complementary projects that came over Ethereum. You have layer one competitors such as Avalanche, BSC. You have all these big names there, and then you have projects like Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, etc., which sort of work with Ethereum. And all these fundamentally try to maximize one of the three axes of the big trilemma problem, as Vitalik described it, right? Scalability, security, and decentralization. So depending on where you are in that axis, you can lower the transaction cost at the as a trade-off. You give up a little bit on the decentralization side, of the security side. So and the community, and there are various communities that emerge around each of these blockchains, much the same way as a lot of the world population wants to live in New York, a lot of it wants to live in London, a lot of them want to live in Mumbai, a lot of them want to live in Singapore, Dubai, some of them want to live in Austin, what have you. Same way, the blockchain community also has been now fragmented. There are a lot of different communities with their own energy, their own vibe, a lot of funding to each of these communities. Now we reach the next phase of growth where we have Dapps that need to seamlessly split or communicate between these various blockchains, right? I mean, if you look at the analogy of what happened in Web 1 or Web 2, even maybe 20 years ago, you have an app on your mobile phone today, right? It might be a document, or it might be an Expedia app, or it might be anything. And the guy creating, or the person, the team, the guy or the girl creating that app does not worry about having to develop it separately for Linux or for Facebook, Microsoft or Windows or whatever, right? You just build once and deploy it everywhere, right? So the beauty of in the case of blockchain, what you have is as a developer, you're worried about let me create something, let me first deploy it for chain 1 and then chain 2 and then chain 3. And that's why interoperability is important, right? You want to have a situation where the end user does not worry about the complexities of the chain underlying your Dapp. They just want a seamless user experience. It's like you go to Expedia, you say that I want to go from London to Singapore, and I book a ticket, and I sort of set the parameters. I want a seat, middle seat, aisle seat, or whatever. I want to fly on this route, and boom, that's it. The same way, why can't you trade? I want to swap from Ethereum to WBTC or a route, yeah. And you just need to be able to set the parameters, and the system should be able to sort of figure out the best execution for you across whatever chain, right? And then you can extend that analogy to swapping, trading, lending, borrowing, cross-chain governance, So interoperability is fundamental to having a better user experience and onboarding the next wave of users onto crypto, right? So more and more users have to come in to make crypto less of a fringe phenomenon, not just from an investment perspective, but from an actual end user perspective, right? So far, you see a lot of uptick on the investment side. A lot of retailers come in, a lot of institutions have come in. As we go forward, it's a bit like the dot-com boom, right? I mean, if you look between 95 and 2000, a lot of the froth was investing. The narrative was far ahead of the product buildup, right? And the product buildup catches up. So the next decade, 4-5 years, we'll see the product buildup catch up with the overall narrative, and then you'll see Web 3 and Web 4 and Web 5, whatever that is, right? All these interesting things take off and provide a far better user experience, with bandwidth coming in, with metaverse and all that. So it's going to be truly immense. 10 years from now, we're not going to even recognize the whole decentralized space. Big, huge change from where it's going to be today. So yeah, that's the broad context. Now let me just pass the baton on to Priyeshu and have him chime in as well.
Very, very good description, Ram, of the entire router. So I think Ram has described a lot, and I should actually now show something what router does. So I would start with the flagship app of router. And what it allows users to do is a cross-chain swap between different chains. So far, we are supporting 9 chains. As I mentioned, they are EVM chains, but we are not too far from non-EVM chains as well. The chains we support are Phantom, BSC, Avalanche, Optimism, Arbitrum, Ethereum, Polygon, Harmony, Chronos, and maybe one or two more. So in total, we are supporting 9 chains. And the router Dapp, the swap app will allow users to swap any coin on chain A to any other coin on chain B. The mechanism for this kind of swap is that we use USDC as a settling mechanism, and we maintain the USDC reserves on both the sides of the chain. In fact, we maintain it on all the 9 chains. And once say you come in with a token X, then what we'll do is we'll convert that X token to USDC using proprietary Pathfinder algorithm, which also leverages other existing aggregators like 1inch and Paraswap. And then we'll swap, like send an instruction from chain A, like the source chain, to the destination chain that you have received, like we have received X amount of USDC after conversion. And then we release those amount of USDC with an instruction to swap that USDC to the token which user requested, and then we'll send that token to the user. So all of this flow, like it takes a lot to explain it, but in actual usage, it's just one single transaction, and I'm going to demo it now.
Awesome.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yep.
Is my screen clearly visible now?
Yes, yes, you can see it.
So this is the router swap application. In this, what I'm going to do is, let's say that I need FTM tokens on Phantom, or maybe any other token on Phantom. It does not have to be the chain token. It can be anything. So maybe say, let's say I need USDC on Phantom and I have say DAI on Polygon. Then all I have to do is like input like what amount I want to swap, and I can choose my fee token to be route. And the benefit of using route as a fee token is that you'll get a discount. So for example, if you see right now, the fees using route is just 58 cents. And if you use USDC, the fees is $1.5. So this 58 cents will go, or whatever user pay, it can be $1.5. So this will go towards creating a secure economy around router, wherein the fees will be used to fund the validators who are securing the network, and provide some incentives to the liquidity providers who are providing liquidity to the various different bridges. And speaking of liquidity providers, I would like to add that we very soon have a staking program coming in, wherein users would be able to provide liquidity for pairs like Route USDC, and also stake Route tokens, and maybe stake USDC token in as bridge liquidity. So all of these will get rolled out slowly over the next 1 month. And that is like the first time a nice staking program is going to get launched for Route. We'll try to get that program integrated inside Huobi itself for you all. And even if so, we are hopeful that it will be done. Otherwise, it's always an option to come and directly stake on the website as well. So going back to the swap, as you can see, like I'm sending 10 USDC, 10 DAI on Polygon to get USDC on Phantom.
It's a cross-chain swap.
Yeah, it's a cross-chain swap happening between Polygon and Phantom chains.
Yeah,
so
and you can do transfers as well. But
yeah, otherwise this process is so tedious. It takes a lot of time. For example, if I have to do this without router, what I would have to do is convert those 10 DAI to maybe USDC or some other coin, and then manually bridge those assets to Ethereum, and then from Ethereum bridge those assets to Phantom, and then buy whatever asset I want. And the typical native bridges are very slow. They take hours, while router takes less than a minute.
Yep.
So I just started a swap.
Yeah, so keep in mind that you can do swaps and transfers, and there are some native stables on the bridge. So USDC, DAI, Ethereum. Some of these are very easy to transfer. One-to-one transfers are very simple.
For example, if some users want, like, since we have USDC reserves, if someone wants to like send USDC between two chains, it's very easy. Anyone, like, you can just input what amount you want to send and you'll get exactly that amount on the other chain. This is because we maintain the liquidity reserves of USDC on both sides. Such assets are classified in our system as reserve assets, and the benefit of using them to like transfer is that you always get one-to-one. And there's a third category of tokens which we also support, but we are not like aggressively expanding it into yet, but we will. That is the tokens for which we have the minting privilege. For example, if a new project comes and they want to launch a token, what we as a router can do for them is map their token on all the different chains and let them use one-to-one mapping for their tokens using the router bridge. And they'll be able to deploy their token on all the chains and maintain the reserves on all the chains, and then give users a platform to do one-to-one transfers easily as they wish. So this will like bypass all the existing bridging solutions which we had, and like this would be the one place to just bridge your assets.
Right. We should probably go to the Explorer and see if the transaction has gone through. Also a great way to sort of demo the Explorer. Yeah.
Router Explorer, and this we have built. Here you can see what kind of volumes are happening and what kind of like trades are happening. You might see a huge uptick here. It's because
so actually it's still an alpha phase, right? So this is basically the across the day. This is literally the volume trend across one day. So yeah, it's still being refined. It's not very intuitive, but cumulatively, I guess the important number is that we have close to 100 million in the last 1 month.
So nearly 100 million volume has been traded. I think
in the last 1 month,
stable coins, and we see that stable is a huge market for people who want to bridge assets between different chains.
Yeah, and one other, the other thing, Priyesh, you might want to highlight is the fact that TVL are not really important here, right? So we don't really emphasize on bridge liquidity. Like a lot of the bridges do, they claim that they have 2 billion in 3VL, 3 billion in TVL. In our opinion, that only makes them a honeypot for hackers. In our case, we have maybe 500,000 in TVL, right? That's all we have. And that has enabled us to do close to 100 million in a month or so. And that shows you that in the bridge space, if you're looking at any bridge, do you want to look at the number of trucks or cars that cross over in a specific span of time, or do you want to look at the number of trucks that are on the bridge for hours together, right? So I think TVL is fundamentally inaccurate, probably not very relevant, somewhat relevant. You just need the base amount of liquidity, right? But you don't need massive amounts of liquidity, right? You just need to make sure a last transaction comes in, you have the capability to sort of convey the transaction, to take the execute the transaction from point A on one bridge to point B on another bridge.
Right.
So yeah, I think the transaction's probably gone through. Actually, Explorer shows. Sometimes it doesn't go through because there could be congestion. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a congestion on the Phantom network. So, but it will go through. I think if you go down the Explorer.
Then on the source, and it's pending on the destination, so it will soon go through. Anyways, let's not spend too much time on this. The demo.
But you can go to the Explorer and see the number of transactions, right? I mean, how many have happened today?
Yeah, so as you can see, like there are too many transactions which are happening, and all these transactions have happened in the last 1 hour only. As you can see, the timestamp is from 1/6, and these are the transactions which are all like completed. So if you see like the transaction in the past, like more than 1 hour, all of them are completed. So sometimes some issue happens, sometimes there's more congestion, sometimes there's a fee is imbalance. All of this happens, but all the transactions eventually go through.
Yep. So that's with the swapping. Priyesh, do you want to zoom out and talk about how
Exactly. So
routers more
now
than?
I want to zoom out and like tell you about like this is just one application of like bridging. So like you are swapping the assets. You want assets on chain A and you want assets on different assets on chain B and you do a swap. But there are still like a huge industry of bridging. And why are those assets even getting bridged? Because there are certain applications which users want to use on different chain, and so they have to still bridge the assets. So far we have solved for swaps, but there's a tremendous amount of potential of what more can be solved. For example, say if someone wants to build a cross chain yield aggregator, say USDC farm on chain, say Avalanche is giving 9% return and the same farm on Phantom is giving 11% return. So the user would naturally be inclined to swap their assets to the different chain or bridge their assets to the different chain and then stake it there. So all of these use case can be built on top of router, wherein these kind of functionalities can be achieved in just one single click. So there would be no need of too many actions again. Like we solved for bridging, we believe like our thesis is that all of the apps which are built on one chain can actually leverage the multi-chain network. Multi-chain because there is more liquidity, more users, and more security, and you're diversified. And that being said, all those applications can leverage the router SDK, which is our which is called Crosstalk. The name is Crosstalk, and it will allows developers to build like listener and executor contracts on all the chains, and then the application can be controlled from just one single chain. So for example, what you can do is you can have your application on Polygon, and users can come and do actions on Polygon, and they will be also reflected on all other chains where they want to act. So this way the user like does not have to manually bridge tokens and not even change their networks in MetaMask and not even maintain gas fees on different chains. So this is just a kind of abstraction, as we call it in computer science, and everything is being done on chain, and it's completely non-custodial in nature. So there is no risk like of a central party involved, and users will be able to perform any kind of action with the help of router in a cross-chain environment. Some complex in some complex actions might even take more than two chains. It could something might even involve three or four chains, and our system will be able to handle it. So yeah, so this is about the demo and the Explorer.
Yeah, I think
This
yes,
is
this is one application of router, which is the
yeah.
router widget. Yeah, please go
Mhm. So this is a router widget. The benefit of this widget is that any Dapp can use this widget and go cross chain, like accept assets from all chains by giving them users to do cross chain swaps. And like for example, Define is a DEX which has integrated router protocols widget. And with the help of widget, anyone can do cross-chain swaps without even leaving the Define interface. And say Define is on Polygon and someone wants Polygon token, and say some user is coming from say Avalanche. So with
ahead.
the help of this widget, users will be able to convert their assets to Polygon assets and then be able to use Define.
So this is specifically, right? I mean, we speak about how router aids interoperability, and you heard the vision, you saw the specific application that lets you go across from chain to chain. This is a very simple tool that lets your Dapp become cross-chain in maybe half an hour of coding effort, right? Let's say you're 1 inch, or let's say you're any DEX on any chain. What the widget lets you do is have the add in the capability for you to become a cross-chain DEX. For example, Define right now, there's a Polygon version of Define But as you can see, you can actually bring in, you can do cross-chain transactions from any chain to any chain. Your users can do that sitting on your interface, right? And why is it attractive to somebody who's running a DEX? They can actually sort of customize the look and feel. They can even add a small fee that they want to capture. It's up to them. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, especially given the nature of things in Web3. But that's also an opportunity, or that's also a choice that they can make if they want to. So in a nutshell, again, it goes back to the theme of cross-chain in a box, right? Seamlessly making your Dapps cross-chain. So in this case, there's a DEX-focused widget, but you can very easily imagine this to be ported to a lending platform like Aave or something, and boom, you have a cross-chain lending and borrowing capability. So this is actually pretty interesting. I mean, you can do cross-chain yield farming. You can just do cross-chain vampire hunting, vampire farming, right? I mean, you can just figure out some DEX and Avalanche, for instance, that has a lot of interesting yield farms. And you're a DEX and Polygon, you could just give an incentive and just suck out all the liquidity into your DEX if you want to.
And see, in this, like, I'm just demoing how I'm converting my Avalanche USDC to Polygon on Define. So the transaction is happening, and once it happens, this is actually a pretty neat solution, and users, like, they're like removing the friction in user experience in changing networks and migrating between networks, and maintaining fees for all the networks. So I'll show one more example. This is the Titan DAO website, and in that they have integrated the widget. This, like, if you look closely, this is a slightly modified and customized version of widget, and we allow the teams to customize with, like, they can remove something, or they can change colors, or they can add something. And with that, it gives them a lot of flexibility. Like, this design is different from what we saw on Define, and they've added this widget on their home page, and it's with the title "How to Buy Titan," and users can come in, and it is, if you see closely, this is already pre-populated with the network and the token, and now it doesn't matter where the user is coming from. What they can do is, like, select their assets and then be able to, like, use their assets to buy the token which the website is trying to sell easily. So the demo will be, like, very similar to how it was for the other token. And then I don't think we have to do all the transactions.
Yeah. There's a perpetual protocol integration, right?
Yeah, so Perpetual also now gives an option when the users want to move their USDC from any chain to Optimism for using Perpetual protocol. It gives the router option as a bridge. It's not loading, like, it's not loading here. The wallet is not loading, Perpetual wallet. I think there's some issue with the website. But anyways, so the bottom line is that the entire space is evolving, and the space is going cross-chain, and then that router is something which is allowing that movement, facilitating that movement, and empowering developers also to build cross-chain dApps. We recently organized a hackathon in Dubai, in which we invited other developers, and some of our developers also participated in that, and they built a lot of cross-chain dApps with the help of router SDK. Ram, would you like to share about your experience with the hackathon, the products you saw?
Yeah, definitely. I think uh, this is a spectacular event, right? We invited around 50 odd developers, both from within the router family as well as the broader community. And we had a 72-hour hackathon. There were around 30 ideas that came in. And after multiple levels of filtering, we ended up on the hackathon. There were 3 teams that worked on 3 projects, super interesting projects, right? One was a cross-chain tornado cache type project. The other one was a cross-chain yield farming aggregator, and the third one was a cross-chain stablecoin. All very, very powerful. Yeah, collateralized stablecoin, not an algorithmic stablecoin. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, we'll hold back an algorithmic till the next bull market. So yeah, I think there are some excellent products that, and these are actually working very, very well in private alpha and private beta. And these teams are now figuring out how to sort of expand and launch and do whatever they have to do. So in the next few weeks, you'll see a lot of these go live, and then you'll also see a lot of other projects that are, a lot of them could not really make it to the final stage of the hackathon, but teams are working on them, and we have some, there's so many ideas, so many developers. It's a question of finding them all and bring them together and get them to work to build cool stuff. So that's what we're solving for. From a community perspective, we are getting into community grants. We're going to start an ecosystem fund. We'll have active reach outs on various college ecosystems, university ecosystems that are, typically the feeding grounds for talent. So we'll start that with Singapore, with India, with parts of Europe. Over the next 6 months, you'll see a lot of activity around that as well. The idea is, there are a number of bridges. I think Router was probably one of the earliest. In fact, if you look at our Twitter stream, we had the whole chain-to-chain transfer sorted last March, literally Q1, before any major player had this capability. Right now, we're sort of worried about the security and the safety and all these things. So we just sort of held back, and we kept iterating, and we got the swaps done, cross-chain swaps, right? And then at this point, there are multiple bridges just solving the cross-chain asset transfer problem. Whereas our approach is, we want to solve the generic cross-chain messaging problem, and from that solve the broader problem of how do you build a cross-chain blockchain primitive, right? So the end goal for Router in the next 9 to 12 months is to build a blockchain that's natively cross-chain, right? And to that end, we need to evangelize the ecosystem, make sure internally, obviously, we need to make sure the code works perfectly. Security is a great focus, right? And make it efficient, seamless, and allow the community to adopt, allow other Dapps to come in and build on top of Router. But from a broader sense, it's about getting the broader community excited, getting the smartest folks to come build on Router, and getting product adoption by having other Dapps integrating Router.
Expanding on the blockchain primitive part, like it's often said that the bridges, like the entire industry in the current space regards bridges as a weak point, as there's an old saying that the strength of the chain is the strength of its weakest link. And our goal is to make sure that weakest link is as strong as the rest of the chain. And for that, our plan is to convert that weak link, which is a bridge, to a blockchain with a nice federated network of validators. We are aiming for 100 plus validators by next year. And with the help of that, we'll help securing the network.
Right.
And if any of you is a developer who is listening this, and like even if you're a product evangelist or just interested in building on top of Router, you can find us on Discord, you can find us on Telegram, Twitter. Just reach out to us. We'll help you with the documentation. We'll help you with tooling. We are also giving grants to developers who want to build on top of Router. and we'll have a we'll give you everything you need in terms of assistance from us, and then we can help you launch a new Dapp on top of router, or even if you want to make your existing Dapp cross chain or be able to accept assets from on the chain, we can help you with that as well.
That's right. So we have a whole suite of products, right? At the one end of the spectrum, you have the full-fledged router blockchain. That's a sort of work in progress. But then what we have today is the whole router, SDK, Crosstalk, etc., the widget, right? But in addition, we're working with very interesting projects to sort of customize solutions for them to address the specific needs that they have, right? So, this is there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of collaboration. Unlike Web 1 or Web 2, which moves in a much slower manner, Web 3 is far more nimble, far more collaborative. You just set up a Telegram group, start exchanging ideas, and boom, before you know it, there is a state of the world which is significantly better than it was maybe even a few weeks ago, right? So I think that's the opportunity of Web3, right? And especially in the bear market, it's amazing how it's good to sort of huddle down and build, because one of the things that you sort of hate about the bull market, you like a lot of things about the bull market. The one thing that I have personally not liked about the bull market, after having seen, I think both of us have been collectively in this space for close to a couple of decades, so that tells you what our vintaging is. So we've seen a lot of cycles, right? And what we don't like about the bull market is just the hype cycle, a lot of projects coming in and raising a ton of money, and you get FOMO. You want to go chase some investor, you want to go to a conference, and you sort of do things. You feel pressure to do things that you don't want to do. Whereas the bear market is beautiful. You just sit down, work, and you do what you have to do, and you get good talent coming in, assuming you have some the capital raise sorted from the previous bull market. And this is there's a nice tweet today that somebody forwarded that spoke about the three phases of a crypto cycle, right? The bull market, when everything is, people turning down $1 million offer for a crypto punk they have and all that. And then the initial stage of the bear market where people are still, suspension of disbelief. And then the full-fledged bear market where a lot of talent leaves the ecosystem, right? And then slowly the bull market starts and they'll come back. So we think bear markets are a great time to build, and especially for projects like ours, which are core infrastructure projects with a lot of potential and promise and a lot of touch points across the whole blockchain ecosystem, right? I think bear markets are a great time to build because you're not competing with the next glamorous crypto punks or Bored Ape or what have you by a musician or a rapper. That's all that glitz doesn't work in the bear market. So we're loving it.
And luckily we are sufficiently funded to keep running for a couple of more years. So the bull market won't affect our building timelines or anything.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's a broader message to the community as well, right? I mean, just heads down, build, learn. There's so much opportunity. And if you're a developer, if you just want to work with us, just join our Discord or Telegram or just DM one of us and then we'll set you up, right? And yeah.
Nicely summarized.
I think are there any questions on YouTube or should we just
let me check if there's any question.
I think it's okay. It's just a bunch of yeah. Yeah, please.
No questions. So there's some comments, and I think we are good to conclude the session. And
yeah, I think great. So thank you so much, Huobi. Thank you so much, Router family. For those of you that are joining in, just welcome to the Router family, especially from the Huobi community. And we hope to have you using Router, giving us feedback, building up on Router, and just help expand the whole interoperability capabilities of the overall blockchain ecosystem. Thank you.